Thanks for joining us on another episode of The Grind. Here's your host, JB.
Hey, thank you, Pierre. We have another special guest for you tonight, but before we introduce him, let me tell you a little bit about his career. This Mountaineer attended J.M. Robinson High School in Concord, North Carolina, where he went 219-11 with 134 pins. Folks, that is crazy at the high school level. 219 wins with 134 pins. He was a member of the 2010 3A state championship team, 4-time conference champion, and 3-time state champion. He was also a member of the cross-country team, earning all-conference and all-county honors. Now, one sport is pretty impressive, but when you start getting into all-conference and dual sports, that's saying something, folks. And I can attest for his aerobic endurance and activity as well. I know how good of a cyclist he is now, so definitely goes to show some of that. Then he attended the Appalachian State University as a wrestler his freshman year. Was cut a little bit short due to an elbow injury, but went 1-2 at the Virginia Tech Open. Sophomore year, again, ran into some injuries again, but was 5-3. He took second place at the Hokie Open, and again had his season cut a little bit short there. Junior year, Mountaineer climbed back on it. Season of 24-10. Took third at the Hokie Open, third at the Keystone Classic, and an NCAA qualifier, advancing to the round of 12. Senior year went 18-6, second at the Roadrunner Open, SoCon champion at the 125, NWCA All-American, earning another NCAA championship qualifier. He then went on to become a volunteer assistant with the Appalachian State wrestling team from 2016 to 2019, and he's currently the assistant director of annual giving for the YOSEF Club. Welcome to Beyond the Mat with Dominic Parisi. Dominic, welcome to Beyond the Mat, man. It's good to have you on an episode finally.
What an introduction, man. I hadn't had something like that in a long time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, man. We love showcasing our hammers and introducing them the right way, man. It's good to get you guys some recognition and get that name back out there. You know, it's been a few years since people seen you on the mat here in Boone. Obviously, we remember kind of how our wrestlers performed when they're up here in Boone, but kind of after they go away, that lineage tends to lose off pretty quickly. So that's what we try to do here at Beyond the Mat is kind of archive what you guys have done for the program and kind of what you're doing and catch up on you. How are things going currently for you?
Yeah, things are going great. I mean, I still get to live up here in Boone, North Carolina, where a bunch of my friends and teammates that had to leave Boone, they're kind of jealous and they try to make it back up as much as they can, but things are going great. Like you said, I now get to give back to student athletes, and I actually have a different perspective. Being in the position I am now, I really have admire what I'm doing because I get to provide student athletes who come up to Boone with the same opportunity that I had and get them to experience this awesome place. So things are going great. I can't complain one bit about the present right now, man.
Awesome. We'll bring us back on split screen here. You're either watching us live tonight, Monday night, streaming on Facebook, Twitter, or our YouTube channel. Wherever you're at, come over here with us on Facebook and join the conversation in here. You're able to comment, ask questions, chime in any way that you can here on our Facebook, and we'll have Dominic answer your question or comment on your reply or whatever it may be. We've got Coach Leblanc is in the chat. Coach Leblanc has entered the chat. Coach Leblanc says, what a legend. Definitely appreciate you joining us, Coach. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Dominic, let's start some things off. I know you're kind of an upstate. You're from upstate New York, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Correct, yes. I was born and raised in Syracuse. a small town called Canastota, actually not too far from the Ryan Leblanc, so where he grew up. So yeah.
Awesome. So what was your start into wrestling then? Obviously being New York, probably a little bit earlier than what most, or was you kind of a late bloomer in wrestling?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question because I got a little bit of a story for that. I started pretty young when I was in New York. Hey, went to a few practices here and there. My father's the one who got me into the sport. He wrestled in college and wrestled up in New York for his whole life and got me into the sport and took me to, and I can vividly remember this, took me to a tournament, youth tournament when I was really young, and I got my tail whooped at this tournament. And I mean, I'm a sore loser, a bad sore loser. Even still to this day, even a game of cards, I'll get pretty ticked off. But I was crying, screaming. He had to carry me out, and he never took me to another tournament again until I got to North Carolina in about sixth grade, end of fifth grade, sixth grade. That's when I really started getting into the sport big time. He helped. He got me into it a little bit, but didn't take me back to a tournament while we lived in New York. So
yeah, he didn't want to be seen with that again. He's like, man, I've had enough here.
Yeah, it was bad. I would ruin some family games because I was such a sore loser. But yeah.
Interesting. So you moved to North Carolina. You started wrestling in North Carolina at what age? What age were you when you moved here and started wrestling down here?
I couldn't tell you the age, but whatever age I was when I was in fifth grade. Fifth grade was my first year down here.
Oh, nice.
So end of elementary school, start of middle school.
Nice. So let's talk about your high school years. High school years were fantastic, man. You didn't experience too much defeat in high school years, huh?
Glory days. Yeah, those were the good times.
Nice. What was kind of your memorable matches, duels and team and individual in high school that you remember that kind of stand out to you?
Team wise, by far, it was my senior year. We had just dropped down to the 3A classification, and we were wrestling Orange High School in the dual state finals at Orange High School. And it was a phenomenal match. They ended up getting a pretty big lead on us by 20 plus points, and then we pretty much came back. Came down to the last match, overtime, I think, and it was a great match. That was by far the best match. And then you can't beat the state finals as a high school wrestler. Those are by far the most memorable. I would say, I think it was when we were wrestling in the Joel Coliseum. That was before it moved to the Greensboro Coliseum. And those were my best memorable matches in there. That was an awesome environment for a high school wrestler.
Yeah, I bet it was. Talking to Dominic Parisi in our live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Want to chime in on the conversation or be a part of the conversation, come over here to our Facebook page. We've got the stream going here. You can jump in the chat, ask a question, or leave a comment here. So, Dominic, you had a very successful high school career. Obviously, we talked about that. What was your recruiting like? Obviously, you probably got some attention and was recruited a little bit. What was the recruiting out of high school like for you?
Yeah, can you hear me still?
Yep, sure can.
Cool. I didn't get recruited too much. Small looks from Virginia Tech, American University, Newberry College. It wasn't really, I had a pretty successful high school career in the state of North Carolina. I did okay, I guess you can say, nationally as a high school wrestler. I only All-Americaned once at Senior Nationals at Virginia Beach. But I didn't really make a big impact outside of the state of North Carolina. So I wasn't getting huge looks, but, of course, I chose App State. And that's just because, John Mark is just a very great recruiter, shows a ton of interest, makes a lot of promises, and then followed up with him. So, I was, he did it the right way, which is what brought me to App. So, and not to anywhere else.
Yeah. What was your introduction to John Mark like in the App State wrestling team? Do you remember at what year you were in high school when that became a part on your radar? Or it had always been on the radar? Or when was it that App State and John Mark was a part of your recruiting process?
Yeah, so that I vividly remember John Mark came and did a clinic at our club, which was called Team Cabarrus. When I was in middle school, he came and did a club. That's back in the day when he had a head of hair on him, and he did a clinic for us.
Wait, that had to be a while ago then.
It was a while ago. It was, Jeremy. Yeah, it was.
Because there's not much left up there now.
He came down to the clinic. Of course, he wasn't recruiting me at that time. I was getting pinned and tech falled left and right when I was in middle school. But yeah, he did a clinic then. But then the first time after that, when we made contact, was my I'd have to say end of my junior year, beginning of my senior year, and kept in touch the whole time throughout that last year of my high school wrestling. And yeah.
Nice. We're definitely glad you came up the mountain and wrestled for the Mountaineer program up here. So going into going out of high school and into your freshman year of being a collegiate wrestler, what was that like for you?
It was great. I mean, the difference between high school and college is, it's a big difference. But if you got the right mentality, right mindset, good work ethic, and you're not backing down to anybody, you can hang in there in that practice room. But it was a big difference. I redshirted my freshman year, so if I had to say that my most fun year, you can say it was my freshman year, right? You're practicing, going to a few tournaments here and there. You're not going through the big grind of a full college Division I season. So it was a pretty good transition. It wasn't full go into a hardcore wrestling season. It kind of allowed me to get acclimated with schooling and practice and time management and all that. So it was a good transition, which I needed coming out of high school, because I wasn't, grade wise, I wasn't very smart at the time, I guess you can say. I had to apply myself a lot more in college than high school to keep good grades. But yeah, that first year allowed me to figure all that stuff out, and it was a good transition.
Yeah, that tends to be the overarching theme of a lot of the guys that I talk to, is kind of an eye opener. You go from competing at a high school level, smaller local high schools and in regions and conferences in high school, to hitting that wrestling room at a college level tends to be a little bit of a surprise.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, even your open turn. I mean, everybody you're competing against. High school, you got, and you'll hear this from every coach in college. High school, you go out, you'll wrestle, at a tournament. Those first 3-4 matches, you'll pin your way through, and then you might have a tough match in the finals. But college is, you're wrestling a tough match all the way up through.
Yeah.
So it was, it's a big difference, that's for sure.
And some of those kids never make it really out of the wrestling room, right? I mean, some kids that enter college wrestling never start. So it is definitely a grind for you guys. I mean, it's a large percentage of college kids that probably never make the starting roster. So definitely a grind for you guys, and I'm sure that, that first year has to be an eye-opener. So you leave your freshman year, take some dings with some season cut short with the elbow injury there. What was that like going through the injury? Was it, was there a time in there that you were like, man, this is, getting beat up in that wrestling room, and now I get out here on competition and I'm banged up already? I mean, that had to be pretty tough to battle through that and keep your discipline and your motivation to fight through, huh?
No, it was the injury occurred actually in practice. I was wrestling with our current starter at the time, Tony Gravely, who's now got a UFC contract and is fighting. And he went, pretty sure he went to go for a lateral drop. And if anybody can picture that, I went and posted my arms out so I didn't go to my back, and it just ended up just kind of extending my elbow and tearing my what's it called? The UCL, I think, is that ligament right here. You get Tommy John surgery, but I didn't need surgery, just had to let it heal being a wrestler. but yeah, I mean, it was, it sucked at the time, but that's part of the sport. I've been injured before. You just heal up and just get back at it, really.
Yeah, and yet that took you into your sophomore year. Third or second place at the Hokie Open, 5-3, and then cut short again by another injury. What was the injury about there? It says your knee.
Yeah. That one was the bad one. That was the one that really played that's getting through some adversity, as you would call it. That one was a season-ending injury. I tore my LCL, PCL, and posterior lateral corner, and the docs even told me that I might be done wrestling post-surgery. But that was even worse than your standard ACL tear, because you're just tearing ligaments that aren't usually torn at the same time. And that one messed me up a little bit mentally too, because I had worked. I was feeling good. I was wrestling good at the beginning of the year, and then to have an injury like that where you're just out for the rest of the season, you're watching practice. You're just all you're doing is rehab. That one was that injury was pretty tough, and even still to this day, I mean, my knee's 100% of what it is now, but I mean, I still gotta bend the thing in the morning to get it loosened up for the day, and it was a pretty good injury, but live and you learn, and just makes you stronger in the long run, I guess.
Yeah, to start out 5-3, that's pretty good for a sophomore. From what I'm seeing in the past episodes where we talking to wrestlers, sophomore year seems to be a little bit of a struggle, right? Most people end up with a few more losses than they do wins, because their freshman year is really spent in the wrestling room. Junior year, though, man, you come out swinging in your junior year and you didn't miss a beat, man. That had to be a good feeling for you. 24-10. That's a pretty impressive finish for a guy that hadn't wrestled a full season yet.
Yeah, junior year was pretty good. It was actually, looking back at it, it was one of my worst but best seasons. The beginning of that year wasn't the best for me. I actually started off on a pretty rough streak. I wasn't, I was losing matches I thought I should have won, and it really didn't come into play, and I didn't kick it into the next gear until postseason wrestling at the conference tournament and then at the NCAA tournament. And things fell right at that tournament, and had a great NCAA tournament, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit. But it was actually that was one of my worst wrestling seasons, but also best wrestling seasons as I finished with that postseason wrestling.
So let's talk about that. You took it all the way to the NCAA qualifier and advancing to the 12th rounds, or the round of 12. So you go from a really poor start to finishing as strong as you're going to finish a season, if I recall correctly. So that's a big twist in there. What was it within that year do you recall the moment where you're like, this is what happened and this is how I overcame it? This is what I did to change the way that season was progressing for me.
Man, I don't know. I don't even know what flipped flipped my switch, but I just tapered off right and peaked at the right time, I guess you can say, for that conference tournament, NCAA tournament. I was feeling good. I was wrestling good. I was hitting my best setups and shots that I've ever hit in any match I've ever wrestled. I mean, I just peaked at the right time, I think, is what it was. Mentally and physically, I felt great. I think that's really what happened, is just peaked at the right moment.
So tell us about that was your first NCAA championship?
Correct. That was my first time ever competing in the NCAAs, yes. How
was that? What was that experience like for you?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was great. It was that was, and Coach Bentley says it all the time, you got to be, when you go to that tournament, you got to be ready. You got to wrestle like that's, the only time you're going to be there, because it never gets easier. You think as time goes on, you get to become older, and you're then wrestling underclassmen. That's not the case in wrestling. You got to be ready to go that year you make it. And that was my best shot. That was my best year, and I had the 5 seed in the first round, and beat him in a pretty good match. And then went on to the next round of 16. Had the 12th seed, I believe, beat him to then go into the quarterfinals, and I ended up wrestling the 3 seed, who ended up beating me, which dropped me down to that round of 12. But it was great. I had, people from all different kinds of schools were, cheering me on. It was an awesome experience. Yeah.
Very nice. So experience in that year for you, for young wrestlers that may still be in high school or grade school that may watch this now or listen to it later, if they're facing adversity at the start of a season like that, then able to turn it around or think about something, what's kind of that piece of advice that you would give a young wrestler that's facing that adversity in the beginning of the season, to keep grinding, keep going, keep working hard, keep the work ethic, keep pushing. You come out with a great postseason performance at the NCAA Nationals. So kind of what would be that piece of advice for the younger guys out there?
Yeah, you said it right, Jeremy. There's really, whether things are easy, whether they're hard, you're going through a rough time, or, it doesn't matter. There's only one direction to keep going, and that's forward, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing. You just got to keep going forward. And you just got to, mentally, you just got to keep yourself in a positive attitude. So, really doesn't matter what you're going through. The only direction that you can go, that you have to go and need to go, is forward. That's really the only thing I can say to that.
Yeah, that's a tough start to have a great finish. That's pretty impressive. Senior year, 18-6, man. Second at the Roadrunner Open, SoCon champion at 125, NWCA All-American, earning another NCAA championship qualifier your senior year. What was your senior year like for you?
Senior year was great. Every single year was great. More challenges every single year. Yeah, absolutely loved it. It was a good year, good and bad year again. Qualified again. I think I got a wild card that year because I didn't get my qualifying bid through the conference tournament, placing or winning the conference, or getting a extra bid if our weight class received it. So I think I got a wild card bid because I had a strong season leading up to conference. So it was it was an okay year, but grew, got better, and kind of rattling on there.
Couldn't have been too bad taking the SoCon championship, man. I know those weight classes are pretty competitive, and I'm sure that was no different then. That's pretty impressive. We're talking to Dominic Parisi. He's on our Beyond the Mat episode. Whether you're listening to us on the podcast or live tonight on our social medias, you can slide over here to Facebook and comment, ask a question if you have any. Dominic, you left your collegiate wrestling career at App State, and you took on some volunteer roles with the wrestling program. What was your years as a coach or an assistant like with the program?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, I was a volunteer assistant for 3 years under Coach Bentley. And I'm pretty sure all 3 of those years were with Josh Rosa and Ryan Leblanc, who now have head coaching jobs elsewhere. But it was great. We were, producing conference champions, All-Americans, winning conference titles left and right. It was great those 3 years. I specifically worked with the lightweights, some middleweights, but it was great. Made sure that I did things for the guys on the team that the coaches when I was wrestling did for me. Anytime a guy asked for a workout, whether it was late, whether it was to get better, to get some extra weight off, I made sure I was there for them, because those coaches were there for me at that time.
Yeah, that's definitely, assistants are very valued, obviously, in programs like that, especially in programs like ours that are doing a lot more with a lot less compared to peers in the conference. Christian Beach is chiming in the chat. He says, what's your favorite John Mark Bentley story?
Christian Beach, huh? What a good guy. I actually saw him this past weekend. Favorite John Mark Bentley story. Let's see. I don't want to get him in trouble here. No, I'm just kidding. No, we had a kid. I forget what year it was, but we had a kid that was he was a starter for us. He was tough, real tough wrestler, real good wrestler, and we were doing a workout, one of our last workouts, it was just a hard drill to kind of get the rest of your weight off, make sure you're on weight for the match coming up. And the kid that was wrestling never really cut his weight right. He knew it. He would always wait for the last week to get his weight off, and he was drilling with Coach Bentley. And of course, if you're a coach drilling with someone that needs to get some extra weight off, you're pushing them. You're drilling pretty hard, whether they like it or not. And the kid that he was wrestling with didn't like it, and he wanted to get up and leave the wrestling room because he wasn't feeling very comfortable. And long story short, Coach Bentley didn't let him leave, and kind of rubbed his face in the mat a little bit and said, "You're getting the rest of this weight off." And he was grateful for it when it was all said and done. But I'm over there drilling on the side, looking over, looking to my right, checking to make sure everything was okay while I was drilling with my partner. But yeah, that's probably one of my better stories.
Nice. Ryan chimes in and says, "Who was your favorite roommate on road trips as a coach?"
Ryan, good night, buddy. You got to get him on here. You got to do like a post coach grind or something interview. But Ryan was my favorite roommate when I was a volunteer assistant. Yeah. He didn't like rooming with me very much. For the simple fact that I didn't sleep with very much clothing on. He didn't like that, so which is probably why he asked that question. He's probably down in Charleston giggling right now, but he didn't like that, so
yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Ryan chimes back in and says, "My man." Yeah, for sure. So, Dominic, those of us that didn't get to watch much of your wrestling in your college years, how would you describe your style of wrestling? If somebody watched you, what would they look at you and say, this guy is this type of wrestler. He's on the mat. He likes to be up and on his feet, neutral. What would they expect to see you doing?
Yeah, I'd say probably one of my stronger skill sets in wrestling were on my feet. Granted, I guess people would say that I just would never really stop wrestling. I always kept coming at you, whether I was winning or losing. Heck, every match I would probably give up the first takedown, and that would somehow kick me into gear and get me really going. But yeah, I just grinded it out. Never really stopped till that last whistle. Nice.
What's one thing you wish you would have known starting out your college career that you know today?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good one. My freshman year, one thing that I would do is, you work so hard, right? I would kill my body, kill myself trying to get those extra workouts in, a day off. I was like, who cares about a day off? That's not important. But yeah, letting your body heal and taking time off, not just to let your body heal, let your mind heal. That's something that's pretty important, for sure. Yeah. That I completely just, didn't even care about coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that as being a new wrestler. You're so focused on trying to improve.
Yeah.
And lose sight of the fact that recovery is a big part of improvement. What's your fondest memory or favorite parts of Boone right now? I know you're kind of a resident, so you've been up here a few years, but what's some of your fondest memories as a student? And now what are some of your favorite parts now that you're a resident of the Boone area?
Yeah, I'd say one of my fondest memories is we had an awesome mountain house. And it was actually a house, I guess you can say, many wrestlers lived in up on top of this mountain. And we just, it was a great place, 4-bedroom, home was built in 2005, wraparound deck. I mean, you can't beat that as a college guy, hanging out in a beautiful house, always having your friends over, doing low country broils and cookouts. We had 2 apple trees in our front yard, and deer just coming in out of nowhere. One of my roommates would shoot one out of his window, and we'd be cooking deer that night for dinner.
Nice.
Right now, I mean, mountain biking is, I guess you can say, my new hobby that's taken over. I can't go a week without getting on my mountain bike, and that's what I spend all my money on these days is mountain biking. That's what's taken over, because you live in the best place for it. I mean, we're surrounded by mountains. Best single track trails on the East Coast, in my opinion, are right here in the high country. So yeah, that's what's kind of keeping me around outside of this awesome university is this terrain that's just, so many things to do.
Nice. Yeah, if anybody follows Dominic on Strava, you'll know he's definitely into mountain biking. How many miles he put on that thing this year, do you know?
I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm also doing some road now just to get in better shape for the mountain bike, but I'm putting some in.
You're putting some
getting
miles.
Those numbers up there.
You're putting some miles on those wheels, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Most memorable team moment, duel, tournament, match. What's your most memorable team moment as an Appalachian State wrestler?
Memorable team moment. I would have to say, and I can't remember what year it was. I think it was the year that I tore my knee up. I think it was the year I tore my knee up, and I don't remember which year it was. It's all a blur now. Heck, I'm only 28. I'm saying that. But we traveled to Chattanooga, and this was basically, it was two best teams in the conference. Whoever won this match were conference champions. And before the match, and I wasn't competing, whether I was redshirting or injured, we took a whole charter bus, a fan bus, and we drove that fan bus all the way down to Chattanooga, and we sat right in the middle of those bleachers. We took where their fans were, and I don't know how many people we had, 100 or so. We might have even taken 2 charter buses, if I think. But we sat right in the middle of their bleachers, and it was Sava Costas that ended up sealing the deal for us, if I remember correctly. And I think it wasn't even in overtime. I don't know. I'd have to look back at the statistics, but I think that he got in a little scramble, ended up on top of the guy, not even takedown awarded yet, but ended up in a scramble, got on top of the guy, and then pinned him to then let us win the duel. There's an awesome picture of everybody in the stands jumping up, hands in the air. John Marks got it in his office, but that was an awesome experience. That rings a bell, because I was a spectator at that point, watching, so I really got to look in at that and see that. So that was a great experience.
Yeah, sounds like it. And I've seen Sava in the chat. We'll have to get him on here on one of these Beyond the Mats one of these nights. Sounds like a great moment, and just from the little time that I've been able to follow the team, Chattanooga's always up there. So I'm sure that was quite the duel. Most memorable individual match as a college wrestler.
I would have to say that was my very first match of the NCAA tournament, where I ended up making it to the round of 12. I was wrestling the number 5 seed from Virginia Tech. I can remember that match very well. I mean, I was wrestling great. I felt great, wrestled great. I mean, everything was coming together at that match. And that one, looking back, that was probably the most fun I had in a wrestling match, which matches aren't really fun unless you're kicking tail. But yeah, that was a good match.
Nice. Christian Beach chimes in, favorite guys you worked with as a coach and best handball players over the years.
Oh, Beach, you got to kick him off that chat. Best wrestlers I worked with. Well, I would say Christian Beach, but he never hit any of the stuff I taught him.
You definitely have to hit what the coach.
He hit a couple moves. He told me he liked a couple of moves I showed him.
Yeah, you definitely have to hit some moves that the coaches are teaching you, right?
Yeah. Oh, Beach. Goodness. Best wrestlers. I'm not even going to answer that question. Handball, yeah, we would Handball was that's a game we would play to warm up. Just a game you play in a restroom. You got the circles; those are the goals. It's kind of like ultimate frisbee, but with a smaller ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would get pretty intense. Usually, the team I was on would always win. That's just due to pure athleticism. Outside of that, outside of that, you know, it would get competitive. Over spring break, training for the NCAA, smaller groups. You know, some guys are out on break. Other guys training for the NCAAs are in. That's when that game got really intense, and you got to work out in. But, yeah, fun game we would warm up with.
Nice. Yeah. Julian Goring's chiming in. He says, Dom. So he's definitely listened. Julian, appreciate you joining us. So let's we've got some scuffle or quickfire questions for you, Dom. We're going to get into the heat of it here. These are kind of quick for you to answer, yes, no, kind of type questions. But we'll get started on these. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say on the first one since we talked a little bit about it. Top, bottom, or neutral?
Neutral.
Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kremes, or is there a third option that Dominic Parisi would rather have than those two?
Espresso News / Local Lion. Keep it local. Although John, Mark, Ryan, and Josh would all say Dunkin'.
Yeah.
Dunkin' with cream and sugar. You can't. I'll tell you what, Rosa would lose his mind if he didn't have his Dunkin' in the morning. My goodness, that guy.
Yeah. I've got that from the three of those guys. I think they could live off Dunkin' Donuts the way they've talked about it when they've been on here. So
you can't go anywhere without
awesome.
Dunkin'.
But I can definitely appreciate the Espresso News or the Local Line. I think you're the first one to answer one of those, man. I like it. I like your style.
Yeah, keep it local.
Keep it local. Drink local.
There you go.
Howard's Knob or moving the mats for camp?
Oh, I think I saw you ask somebody this question. That's a good one. Howard's Knob.
Yeah, I knew that you were going to pick that. Being the runner and, that was a no-brainer. You're done with it.
Minutes.
Yeah, done and over in a few minutes for you. You're golden the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Let's see, Chick-fil-A or Bojangles?
That's pretty good. It's a good one. Bojangles.
Bojangles. There we go. That's my style too, man. Right on the way to the tailgates every Saturday when we're allowed to tailgate. That's definitely a stop. Power hour or Leblanc practice?
Neither. Come on. That's either Rosa or Ryan. I'm not giving either of them the benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard some horror stories about both of them, so it must not be good either way around.
Well, the power hour is just power hour. All you do is push-pull for an hour, and then a LeBlanc practice, it's supposed to last, an hour to an hour and 15, and it ends up being 3 hours. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I've heard that the power hour of Josh is pretty intense but short. The LeBlanc practice is supposed to be an hour, but it always goes much longer. So it's kind of you kind of hit it on the head with what everybody else has said. Yeah. Here's a more difficult one for you: Cookout, Five Guys, or Comeback Shack?
I treat my body like a temple, so I don't like to eat at any of those places. So, but if I had to choose, I'd say Comeback Shack.
He treats his body like a temple.
John Mark will get a kick out of that one.
Yes, he will.
I say it all the time to him. He dies laughing.
Yes, he will. I'm sure he'll get a kick out of that one. That's a great comment. I might have to cut that one out and use it as one of your highlights or something. Best LeBlanc driving story from Christian Beach.
Oh, Christian. Oh. I mean, just long story short, we were driving from Boone to Charlotte Douglas Airport, and I was fearing for my life going down 321, getting to 85 in the fog, and he's all over the place. You can't see the white lines, and I'm sitting about halfway on the other side of the white line, and then, a couple more feet to my right, dropping down into the gorge. I mean,
that's pretty good, man. I'm gonna have to. I'll have to hit him up after the show and ask him about.
Hey, I'll get a kick out of this one while we're talking about it. He got pulled over on the way to a tournament, right? So it was me. We had 3 vehicles. I was driving one. Coach Bentley was one. Ryan was one. He got pulled over, and it's morning, and the officer asked him if he'd been drinking. True story.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty. That kind of that's all you need to say, man. There's really nothing else to say after that, right? 6 a.m. preseason or 6 a.m. postseason?
Oh, see, that's a good one. Oh, that's a really good one. Yeah. 6 a.m. postseason for sure, though, now that I think about it.
Preseason's rough, huh?
Preseason's preseason. You're right. It's rough.
Yeah, pretty rough.
Yeah.
And that one's kind of dependent on who's asking or who's answering. As a wrestler, 6 a.m. preseason always seems a little bit rougher than being on the staff side. So obviously, being in both shoes, I can understand where you're coming from on that. Your 4 years of preseason workout, I'm sure, was rough. Ryan chimes in, still alive to tell it.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
That's right.
So speaking of your body as a temple, I hear your mom ensures that Coach Bentley gets a delivery just about every time she's in town.
That's correct. Her eggplant.
I've heard
it's to die for. Her anything is to die for. So she would always bring up food for a lot of the coaches, athletic trainers, and she'd bring them eggplant, and it is delicious. All you gotta do is throw it in the oven, preheat it up till the outside's boiling a little bit, and you got a great pan of some Italian food.
Nice. That sounds good.
Yeah, it's delicious.
So Dominic, now that you kind of experienced both sides of this, we chatted about this a little bit. Now that you've experienced both sides of the coin, so to speak, as a student athlete and as a staff member, and now as a member of the YOSEF Club staff, tell us about your feelings of the YOSEF Club. Tell us about the importance of it, obviously, as a student athlete, some of the impacts that it had on your life as a student athlete, the impacts that it has on our current student athletes, and as a staff, the importance of it going forward and being a part of the YOSEF Club.
Yeah, I mean, being so first off, the YOSEF Club pretty much, it's a membership-based boost organization that provides scholarships for our student athletes. I mean, that is my mission, as a staff member of the athletic department, and my role is to raise scholarships for student athletes at all sports, every single sport. So the importance of that, especially at a school like App State, is extremely important. And I'm really starting to realize, because when you're a student athlete, you don't really, you thank those people that donate to those clubs, but you don't really know that impact that club has on you as a student athlete until you're in my shoes, 28 years old. I'm 6 years out of competing, and I was on scholarship, but I never realized the importance of what, those YOSEF Club members did for me, which I think makes me, is a great asset for me in the role that I'm in. I mean, I can really, really help and explain, what the YOSEF Club does for our students here on campus, our student athletes on campus. So it's very important. It's even more important as a former student athlete to give back. I mean, whether you're giving back, it doesn't matter. I mean, whether you're giving back $10, you're giving back $100, which then makes you a part of a association for former athletes, the Former Athlete Association. I mean, you need to give back. If you went through the grind as a student athlete in any sport, you need to give back to that sport and give those other student athletes that are going to take your place the same opportunity as you. So yeah, it's very important, and it's a I mean, the athletic department's got me by a chain because I don't want to leave this place. I absolutely love it. So yeah, it's extremely important.
Yeah, and what kind of my story, Dominic, that you can kind of vouch for is Appalachian State athletics. No matter what program, we are pretty successful. Obviously, football speaks for itself. Wrestling speaks for itself. We are a very competitive wrestling program nationwide, oftentimes ranked, and compete every year for the Southern Conference Championship and always have champions out of the tournament and sending wrestlers to the NCAA Nationals at the end of the season for postseason wrestling. What most people don't realize, though, we do that and probably one of the smallest giving or booster club membership numbers out of any of our peers. What we accomplish is tremendous, but what we could accomplish with the numbers of our peers are bringing down would be simply amazing. I mean, we would have, for wrestlers, for the people that love the wrestling program, for instance, we are not a funded program yet. We have a few scholarships. I think we just went over 5.5, I think, last season. John Mark was awarded the 5.5 scholarship to bring us up from 4.5. So we still have a lot of work to do in that program. Yes, we're mountaineers. We're on the mountain. We're used to doing more with less. But if we had more to do more with, it would be very, very appreciative for all of our programs and to be able to push these scholarships forward because it's a tough go. I'm just all transparency. I'm a part of the advisory board for the YOSEF Club. We haven't figured out what the approach is to get people to be involved, but I can tell you it's something that's a part of everybody's conversation that's involved in that program every day. Trying to figure out how to get more of you guys involved in the program, whether you're a listener that appreciates Appalachian State's programs or the wrestling program, or like Dominic said, former athletes. I will definitely say if you're a former athlete, you got to get involved somehow, and if nothing more, just to tell people that you're involved. Dominic, on my side of the coin, I think one of the rumors or one of the falsehoods of being a part of a booster club is that you have to donate thousands of dollars every year to get your parking spot or to get whatever it is that may be, and that $1,000 donations a year are the only ones that matter.
False. I give our YOSEF members that give $100, $250 dollars a year the same attention as those that give thousands. Yeah. They get a handwritten thank you, and they get the benefits are different. Of course, if you're giving more, your benefits change. But no, any dollar amount counts at any given level. So
yeah, and I would dare say that if we could boost those $50, $60, $100 a year giving levels, that will have a greater impact than the few $1,000 and above donors that we get. I mean, there's a lot of room to be made up in those lower level givings that we're not there yet. But just being a part of it, folks, I can tell you there is no greater feeling than to be able to walk into the wrestling room or the varsity gym or home center or kid brewer knowing that you've had an impact on the outcome of whatever event's about to happen. Because it doesn't happen. It's very tough to compete with our peers without scholarships. And the more money we raise, the more scholarships we can give. Dominic, what's one thing you hope people remember about your commitment to Appalachian State Wrestling during your time here in Boone?
Just that I gave my all for App. Couldn't say it any better than that.
Yeah, man, and we definitely appreciate what you're doing nowadays. I know that's we chatted about that a little bit beforehand. In today's time, dealing with the pandemic that we're dealing with, your job, I'm sure, has many restless nights and hard days that you're still grinding, still making calls, still trying to raise money for our student athletes, and I definitely appreciate what you do for that.
Yeah, only way to go is just keep going forward, right?
Yes, sir. Dominic, appreciate your time tonight. How can people find you on the social media networks?
My social media whatever you want to call it. My name is Dom John with 2 N's. DOMJOHNN. I have a Instagram, a Facebook, and I barely use them.
Do you have a Twitter account? I tried to find it earlier, but I couldn't find it.
Deleted that thing.
Uh-oh. Must have got him in trouble.
Too many things to look at. Too many things. I barely, Facebook takes up most of my time. I should delete that too, to be honest with you.
Hey, we got a last-minute question.
If it's from Beach, I'm not answering.
This one's from John Mark Bentley himself.
Oh, boy.
Yes. Ask Dom why one of the athletic vans is called Dom's van.
Ah, that's a good story. And I'm going to tell the truth about that. And I actually still get crap from it from our athletic director, Doug Gillen, and everybody else in the athletic department that knows about this. But anyway, long story short, athletic department buys this brand new high top 16-passenger van. Just got new decals on it. Looks great. And I'm the one driving it, as I should be, you wouldn't want to put that in the hands of Ryan or Josh or something. But anyway, it's totally contradicting the story I'm about to tell. So anyway, I go to the Southern Scuffle. We're going down to the Southern Scuffle in Chattanooga. We're staying at a hotel and parked in the hotel parking lot probably 3 times that day in between workouts and whatnot. Anyway, Josh Rosa, he's flying into Chattanooga from a recruiting trip he was on to be there for the tournament the next day. So I had to go pick him up, 9, 10 o'clock at night. So I go pick him up, come back to the hotel, and I have to now park in an area that I hadn't parked in the whole time I've been there because every parking spot's taken up. So now I got to go underground in this parking deck. And so I go underground in the parking deck, and I kid you not, the ceiling to this thing was 40 feet tall, Jeremy. Right? And I'm looking for a spot I can back into and be able to get out in the morning because these are small, tight spots. And I see a spot all the way in the back. I'm like, that's the one. That's the one I can get to. So I'm cruising to the back, and then all of a sudden, bang. The roof dropped. I kid you not, 30 feet. I put a little hole in the top. Even Josh Rosa was like, what the heck was that? He's like, man, if I was driving, I'd have done it too. And so I put a little hole in the top of the van, brand new van, went into Coach Bentley's office. He or not his office, into his hotel room. He was watching Mean Girls on TV, and then I told him that I had ran into that ceiling. And, he didn't believe me at first, but you didn't catch that Mean Girls joke, Jeremy. So that's okay.
yeah, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty awesome. I know John Mark could get a kick out of that when he hears it. Dominic, I appreciate your time, man. I've kept you on here about as long as I intended to. So,
yeah, man.
I tell you what, we've got some more news before we end this thing. Dominic is going to join us on the grind as part of the crew and become a host, and maybe a little bit more here in the future. We're still working on some things. But I'll be honest with you guys. I love doing what I do. I love talking to our wrestlers, our coaches. I love covering a very successful Appalachian State wrestling program the way that I do and have. But I'm excited to bring somebody on with experience, right? I'm very excited to bring on one of our former athletes in Dominic. Somebody that's worked as an assistant within the program, and somebody that still works in athletics to be a part of this, a part of the production, because I think there's a lot more out there and a lot deeper that we can dig into the what's happening with the team and the wrestling and the matches and that sort of thing. So going forward, Dominic will join me as a co-host, or he may host some of the episodes himself going forward, and there'll probably be some more things coming out. He'll probably help with some updates, and we're working on, as John Mark alluded to in the last conversation we had with him, We're trying to get some things in place that we're able to do a lot more going forward before the season starts. So you'll see Dominic a little bit more often on this side and part of the grind team. So Dominic, man, I'm excited to have you on board, and I definitely appreciate you volunteering to help us out here, because I think you're going to be a great asset that'll bring a whole different dynamic to what we're doing here.
No, appreciate it, Jeremy. Appreciate you and all that you do for App State Athletics and for this wrestling program, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you, man. Dominic, appreciate your time. Thanks for everybody that tuned in. Follow us, like us. Go subscribe to us on YouTube. We need some subscribers on YouTube. We've only got 4 over there. Share it, tag your friend, create a couple email addresses for your neighbors or something, and go subscribe with their email addresses on YouTube. That always helps. Thank you for tuning in. Share us, like us. We're on all the podcast platforms as well, and I'll upload this episode to those probably bright and early in the morning. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your time. This episode of The Grind is proudly sponsored by Mountaineer Works. Mountaineer Works, owned and operated by Appalachian State alum and athletics photographer Chad W. Mitchell. Chad designs and builds officially licensed, unique cornhole board sets, and today I give my all plaques that will surely rock your tailgate, party, backyard barbecue, office, or creative space. They're sculptured smooth in the wood lab, fire coated at over 3,000 degrees, and paint dyed in the Cornhole Conservatory to complement their one-of-a-kind grain, then App State branded. The best part is you choose from a set of pre-approved color layouts and App State logos to personally design your cornhole boards, and today I give my all plaque. Mix it up or match it up, you can't go wrong. Show your Mountaineer pride as these make solid gifts for deserving folks. Find Mountaineer Works on Facebook and Instagram to place your order or ask a question.
This has been a production by YOSEF Media.